Am I live? It says I'm live. It's already yelling at me about ads. Oh my goodness. Okay. Hi. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Clap if you can hear me, I guess, or do something in the chat. Stop telling me about ads, YouTube. Okay. Hi, everybody. Greetings and welcome to another exciting episode of Veronica Explains. I'm Veronica, and that thing is happening again with the sound. Why does this keep happening? I gotta turn the sound off. For whatever reason, my stream will like start making sound there. It's because I have Patreon up. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm so haphazard with this stuff, and that's okay because I'm making it up as I go. So I'm seeing lots of people in the chat hanging out. I recognize some of you. I think this is a different time than I normally stream, so this is gonna be kind of fun. Hello, everybody. Somebody said, oh, live video. Yeah, it's live. I'm making it up as I go. So yeah, this is exciting. We got a good morning and a good evening, which is great. We got a hello from Norway. Hi there. We got people clapping. That's good. So is my audio sound okay? I hope it sounds good. Let's talk about the VIC-20 for a bit, because I did some cool stuff yesterday and I wanted to talk about it because I think it's neat. You might think it's neat. It involves a Raspberry Pi. And I think it's going to be a fun time. So let's see if I can show you my current screen here. And let's hope my audio keeps going. I'm guessing you can still hear me. And can you see my VIC-20 here? It should say CBM Basic V2, and it should say I have a bunch of bytes free. So this is my VIC-20. I do have a Penultimate Plus cartridge installed in it, so those of you who are really in the know should recognize that that is not the normal amount of bytes free on a VIC-20. This has been RAM expanded. And so the reason why I'm talking about this is because getting video out from one of these can be a bit of a challenge. And it always has been for me, because the VIC-20 by default uses composite output. And what that means, if you're familiar, in North America at least, we have these red, white, and yellow cables. And the VIC-20, the best it could do was that yellow cable. And you're seeing it here through my RetroTink. It's good. It's kind of fuzzy. You can see kind of like some of the, can I get there? Some of the text is a little bit on the fuzzy side, and it's good, but like we can improve things. I think we can make this better. And so that's one of the reasons why I picked up a neat toy here, which is, let's make myself big. Okay, which is the LumaCode. Now I'm gonna unplug mine. Hopefully that doesn't disrupt too much. So I want to show this off real quick because it is super fun. So this, I need to change my focus here. Okay, so focus on this for a minute. Come on, there you go. Okay, so this is a LumaCode hat, or this is a LumaCode cable that attaches to what's called an RGB to HDMI, which is a Pi hat. So here we have a Raspberry Pi on the one side, and we have a specialty board. Now this one was made by C0pperdragon, and I believe it's been modified to have a composite, an RCA input. And so you connect these together like so, which is fun. Let's make sure I didn't bend too much. I already had a bent pin on this one, but that's fine. I can fix it. So that's that. And we got buttons for controlling it, and we've got a button for reset right here. And the idea behind this, now I need to be in focus. Come on, focus on me. There we go. Okay. So the idea behind this is this captures there's a chip, an FPGA, connected to the VIC chip, which is the video chip for the VIC-20. The Commodore 64 uses something similar. And what we're doing here is we're capturing those video signals and we are converting them to a totally different format. And I'm going to grab a cable here to show you what that ends up looking like. So C0pperdragon, now this is the original output as intended by the Commodore. And I'm gonna unplug it here. There we go. And now I'm gonna plug in my RCA cable, and I'm gonna hook up the other side of this to this output. And if you follow me on Mastodon, you saw some of the background of this yesterday. And you should see it's gonna give a weird signal. If it even connects. Come on. I wonder if I can, nope. Did I get myself out of, let's make sure we're in the right mode. I'm turning it off and turning it back on again. See if that does anything. There we go. Okay, so this is the main menu for the penultimate cartridge. But so you can see here what the C0pperdragon board, the FPGA, has done is it's created what C0pperdragon refers to as LumaCode. It's basically outputting different patterns for the different colors that are supposed to be represented. And then the Raspberry Pi with this RGB to HDMI hat can accept that output and turn it into much clearer video. And I'm gonna see if I can rig this up. So I'm gonna unplug this. We're gonna plug this in. And now my cable's a little loose here, so sometimes I gotta jiggle it in order to get it to work. I plug in, I can hear stuff's a brewing. And I need an adapter because Raspberry Pi, of course, doesn't have regular output. It's got one of those mini HDMIs, which is always so fun. All right, and now we're plugging it in. And it should alert me that it needs to do a thing. Oop. Okay, I can see it. But I'm betting you can't. I wonder... Okay, I can see it on my monitor, but I don't think it's synced yet. So I'm gonna hit the resync all my video up. I'm hitting buttons on my capture stuff. Come on. Okay, this is my capture card because I can see it just fine. Let me tell the capture card what to do. Or I can just plug it in directly. Maybe I should just plug it in directly to show y'all. Okay, because I can see it. It's on my monitor. It looks great. Just trust me. It looks fantastic over here. Oh my goodness. A Dolphin has gifted a bunch of Veronica Explains memberships. Thank you. I very much appreciate that. That is so kind of you. Oh my goodness. Thank you. That is delightful. I'm sitting here trying to futz with video, but that was in the title of the video, so I think you all are probably expecting it. Okay, let's Blackmagic device. I gotta tell this to oh yeah, it doesn't know its mode yet. Okay, turn on auto. There we go. Okay, let me make that bigger. Expert level OBS in here. Okay, so that is how it looks now. And it is much cleaner. I'll go back to that basic prompt so y'all can see how that looks. So I want to do a little bit of a before and after here. So this is the after. And now I'm going to go back to the before. So I should be able to do that pretty easily with just like unplugging things and plugging things back in repeatedly. So as I'm like breaking stuff, okay, you get out and you go in. So this was the before. And now you can see I'm zoomed in because one's 1080 and the other's 720 because of the way my monitor's set up. And now, so you can see it's fuzzy. And then I'll plug it back in. And again, my cable's loose, so I gotta hold it nice and tight. After. We got before and after. And that is so much cleaner. It's so much easier to see. I absolutely love how this thing has turned out and how neat this has made this screen. And one of the other advantages when you're working with RGB to HDMI on the Raspberry Pi, you can take screen captures. I'll do one right now. And it copies a PNG of the screen you're currently on right to the Raspberry Pi micro SD, which is just super cool. It's absolutely fantastic. And if you're the kind of person, either you're streaming retro gaming or you just really like this stuff but don't have old monitors lying around, something like this is a dead simple mod. And like I'm super glad that I did it. So I'm gonna make myself big again, and I'm gonna turn this off and unplug everything so I can show you all a little bit more of what's going on. Yep, people are saying, yep, that's so clear. It almost looks like you're running an emulator, Andrew says. Yes, absolutely. It really does. It nearly looks like an emulator. I have a hard time believing it's real, but it is. I mean, it's pretty real anyway. I mean, there is a Raspberry Pi involved, and I know some people are going to say, why are you using a Raspberry Pi? You could just emulate it on the Raspberry Pi. And I mean, that's true, but I don't want to. I want to do it this way. So I did last night, and I talked about on Mastodon, which I have a new instance at vkc@linuxmom.net, but I 3D printed a new control bracket and then added, so that's the LumaCode output. That's not native to the VIC-20. The VIC-20 natively has this cable right here, which is a 5-pin DIN. Let's see if I can make that bigger for you, or at least make it clearer for you. It's one of those. And on this cable is the, you know, the audio and the video, and it's very blurry compared with that clean video. So super neat. It didn't involve, other than the fact that I had to, you know, 3D print a bracket so I didn't have to cut into it. This is a completely reversible mod, which is absolutely fantastic for me. I definitely did not want to destroy something just to make my life look prettier. And that's one of the things that I think is super neat about the C0pperdragon mods, because I think C0pperdragon has done a really good job of attempting to make a lot of this stuff as reversible as possible. I know with the Commodore 64, you have to disconnect the RF jack if you want it to be, if you don't want to cut into your case. And I mean, that's fine, because I think most people don't use the RF jack in 2024. So yeah, that's that. Taking a look at the chat here real quick. Jacob Werner says, is that an actual VIC-20? Actual VIC-20. This is the real deal. I picked it up off Craigslist and like some time ago, and it is stock VIC-20, other than I've added the penultimate cartridge to make game loading faster, which is fun. Is there a similar device that would work the same for an Apple II? The Unwalled Garden asks. I do believe so, but it's not through C0pperdragon, if I'm remembering correctly. I believe what you're looking for is the Raspberry Pi part of this, which is this, you know, the hat here that attaches to the Raspberry Pi Zero. You can see it, like, it's really small, but you can see it in there. And that goes, that's called the RGB to HDMI project. And you can, if you Google RGB to HDMI in DuckDuckGo, you should find a variety of links to where you can purchase one near you. I think in the US, I've been buying from Retro Hack Shack, if I'm remembering correctly, and I don't know about international shipping. I dropped a link in the description of this video to this particular board, and that is shipped from Europe, if I'm remembering correctly. I think C0pperdragon takes care of those and ships them from wherever in Europe they are. So, ooh, is C0pperdragon in the chat? Oh, hi, C0pperdragon. Hi, I love your work. Thank you. I think I've bought a few of your adapters at this point. They're really cool. Yeah, I think there's an analog RGB to HDMI and a digital RGB to HDMI. That's a distinction here. I've only really messed with this one. I think I have a digital one that I could use, but not for this. I've used it for other, or I would use it for other systems, but I have the RetroTink and that's doing okay for me. Yep, okay, somebody says I have not updated the Mastodon link in your YouTube channel. Right, but if you click on that link, it should get you to the new one. So hopefully that's good. So do we want to see how this looks in a game? That's kind of what I was thinking, as we play a game real quick, and then I'll turn my attention, you know, toward Linux, because I know some people like Linux, I guess. So I'm going to start with paddles. That was where I had decided to go, as I'm probably breaking my microphone. Hopefully that wasn't too loud. Yep. Sean says, I remember when the Commodore 64 came out, it can do amazing things. It can. It's absolutely fantastic. Nikolai says, I've been using DuckDuckGo for a while now, and I have to catch myself saying Google. I don't know how to stop. I never stopped. I just call it Googling, and you do it in DuckDuckGo now. That's, I mean, is it incorrect? Yes. Do I care? No, I do not. Okay, so let's turn this on. I'll wait for me to get a signal. Yep, I got VIC-20 paddles. Okay, so if you're not familiar with paddles, these are paddles. They're called that because of Pong, and there's a pot in here that, here, I'll just hold one. There's a pot in here that you twist, and that's how you control the game, and there's a button. So it's a little like a joystick, but different. And this is one thing the Mister doesn't do great, is paddle controls. So if you're an FPG emulator person and have a paddle system that works over USB or something, please let me know, because I'd be interested in that. Okay, so here's the games, and we're gonna go to paddle games because those are the ones I'm plugged in for right now. And Clowns is a fun one, so we're gonna try Clowns. Somebody asked, does it work with a stock Amiga 500? There is an Amiga 500 variant of this, and I forget if C0pperdragon did it, but there's an internal Amiga 500 version, and then somebody rigged up an external one, which, depending on if you want to mod your case or, you know, whatever, those could be an option. I don't think I have the internal board, and again, with the RetroTink, anytime I've played with my Amiga, I just grab a SCART cable and plug it into the RetroTink 5X, and that works just fine. But yeah, this looks stunning. It looks really good. And now I'm gonna have to look over here because what's in front of me is gonna be on a delay. So I'm turning to my other screen. Okay. So press F1. Now let's hope I got the right controller here. Okay, that's loud. Nope. Okay, it's this one. There we go. Okay, so this is Clowns, and the object is to get the clown up into the balloons. And then you pop the balloon, and you win points, which are not redeemable for anything. So I'm turning... So this is, yeah, this is original hardware. I'm trying to read the comments while I play. C0pperdragon. Ah! C0pperdragon says, yes, the original adapter was designed by me. Thank you for your service, C0pperdragon. That's incredible. Yeah, that's fantastic. This looks absolutely stunning. Like, I have been so used to seeing the VIC-20 on really lousy composite video, and this, I mean, I didn't really tweak with the RGB to HDMI part other than like plug it in, and it worked out really well. Ah. Come on. Oh, we're going faster now. Hey, I got the bonus. Okay, so that's, we're gonna end that there. I'm hitting reset. Okay, so that was Clowns. which is a ton of fun. Marco says the Amiga version goes on the Denise socket and uses a Pi 0. Yeah, that was absolutely fantastic. Andrew says, why is the platform so twitchy? That could be because the pots in here are like really dirty. They feel grimy when I turn them. So I might need to deoxit them at some point. These were a Craigslist find, and they are they feel like a Craigslist find. So yeah, that shaking I don't see shaking. I don't think there's no emulation here other than that the screen is being redrawn, and I don't see that shaking in real life. I think what you might be seeing is just the problems of the paddles. So yeah, that's fun. I'm gonna switch now to this thing, which is a zip stick. It's a zip stick. So I'm gonna plug a zip stick in. Oop, and I unplugged the video cable while I did that. It's the one downside of where I placed this mod. Now I plug it in. There it goes. Okay. All right. So let's see. Let's play Donkey Kong. It's a fun one that a lot of people know. Okay, so here's Donkey Kong. Now, it looks really good. Like, this is, I mean, I know if you're used to the Nintendo Donkey Kong, this isn't going to be as, this isn't going to be as clean as the NES Donkey Kong, but this is definitely cleaner than that composite video signal. There we go. Now, when I shake the cable, I can see a little bit of fuzz coming in, but again, that's the cable being loose in there. Oh, come on. Oh, no! Okay, so that's Donkey Kong. Now, I'm wondering, what should I play next? Okay, my phone says they were twitchy new, those paddle things. Software needs to debounce them extensively, averaging out the readings. Yeah, that sounds about right. So I'm wondering, what game should I play next? We got the Future Was 8-Bit titles, which is always fun. If you've ever seen, like, some of these are well known. VIC-20's, I'm awful at this. Let's try it. This is gonna be terrible. Ah! I got 2! This is on a VIC-20. This is on a real VIC-20. No emulation. Ooh, I got 2. Can I make 3? Ah! No, I can't make 3. Okay, Garfield wants to see Asteroids. Let's try it. Let's go to games. I don't know if Asteroids is on here. Is Asteroids on here? No, I don't think Asteroids was on here. Galaxian's on here, though. Yeah, I'm pretty... Nikolai says, of course, somebody ported Flappy Bird. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Flappy Bird's been ported to everything. Ah! Okay, Tooth Invaders. I don't know if Tooth Invaders is on here. Should we try it? It is such a clean picture. Like, I'm struggling with how clean, like, it looks like an emulator. And this is real hardware. Okay, I'm hitting reset. Let's see if Tooth Invaders is on here. So this cartridge is, and it's not sponsored, but it's the penultimate plus from thefuturewas8bit.com. I'm a big fan. We got pole position, QRST. No tooth anything. Star Battle. I wonder what Star Battle is. Oh, this is not a... Use joystick or keys. Okay, let's try it. Oh, there we go. It's like Galaxian. It's kind of loud. Does it include Jelly Monsters, aka Pac-Man? Okay, let's check that one out, and then I promise we'll talk about Linux. Jelly Monsters. Okay, we got Jelly Monsters. This does have Pac-Man on it too. Okay, we're gonna try with joystick. Hey, look! Oh, I died. It looks really clean. Like, this is super fantastic in terms of the look of it. You know, of course, you're limited. It's still a VIC-20, and it's not as clean as the Commodore 64, of course. I'm awful with a joystick. Okay. Okay, so that was fun. Let's see, make myself big again. Okay, so that was fun. I gotta get better with a joystick. I'm always terrible with joystick games. But yeah, when you think about just how cool of an idea this is, that we can use something as simple as a Raspberry Pi and like a modification board that C0pperdragon was very gracious to create and, you know, put out there for the community to have, you can get absolutely stunning stuff going on. And I love that we're creatively reusing this stuff. I think that's super neat. And like, I know some people are probably already typing in the chat, like, why not just emulate it? And like, sure, if you want to, you can just emulate it. But, you know, I kind of touched on it, but you don't get this experience the same with an emulator. You can approximate it, but it's not going to feel like this. It's not going to have that sort of vibe to it. And to me, that's a really important part of why I'm interested in this stuff, is getting to know all those parts that go along with it. I think that's super cool. And there are, I should mention, there are versions of this type of board. C0pperdragon, I put a link to the Tindy page in the description of this, so go check that out. I've also done this with my Commodore 128. It's the same process. You take the video chip up and you plop the board in the middle, and let's see if I can pull one up to show you. Here, I'm gonna try to add a video source to this. Let's see if I can do it. I wonder if I can tell it to, I don't want a new scene. I don't need a new scene. I need to add a window. Let's see if I can do it. It's probably gonna add my window as a window itself. Yep, here we go. Okay, get ready for recursion. We got some recursion going on. That's always fun. Transform, can I like fit to the window? Let's do that. Hi, okay. So let's just do this. Okay, so so C0pperdragon's got a site, and this is the actual mod itself, and you can see it just kind of goes in there and it works out really well. You got pins here, and you just plop it into the socket where the video chip goes, and either drill a hole, or in my case, I 3D printed a replacement control plate for this thing to go, and then it goes in and it's just fine. We've got the TIA, which is for the Atari 2600, so that's definitely something I got on my radar. We got the VIC-2 for the Commodore 128, the VIC-2 for the Commodore 64. Let's see, we've got the Atari 8-bit machines. C0pperdragon's got your back on those. We've got just the LumaCode cable itself if you want to connect to an analog RGB to HDMI. And here, this is, what is this, like the TI-99? Yep, and some MSX stuff, which is cool. And it's just, I just think it's so cool that we've got this. The code's all here on GitHub. You can go check out more precisely what it's doing, and like the definition of the standard is in there. I just think this is really neat. And I'm really glad we have this available to us to, you know, do neat things together. Like, I think that's super cool. So let's see, do I still have chat? Are you still there? Can everybody see me? People can see me. Okay, hi. Let's see. So we got people reminiscing yep, we got people reminiscing in the chat. I can see forever. That's great. Because of the recursion. It is kind of seeing forever. Let's see. I think people are talking about buying old stuff. Yeah, and I'm seeing in the chat, people are mentioning the Commodore 64 Brick of Death issue, which is the... if you use your original power supply with your Commodore 64, you can, if you don't know what you're doing, you can basically kiss the Commodore 64 goodbye. I always use these aftermarket power supplies, which I get from, I think, a Polish site. I want to say it's Electroware based on the thing here, but I think I left a link to it in my Commodore 64 on the internet video. So if you want to know where to get a good power supply, go check out that video's description. It's gonna have what you need. Yep, I'm a big fan of that. Okay, so I'm gonna look and see. Let's get some. Oh, we've got a question here. What is your advice for the best 8-bit computer to get for my kids to teach them programming? I wanted to get them an 8-bit computer to teach them so they learn to poke addresses, etc. That's from Daryl. Yeah, Daryl, and I think people are saying Commodore 64. Commodore 64 is probably a really good option, and a reason for that is just that it's super well documented. And Googling your way through problems is going to be much easier on the Commodore 64 than it ever would be on like a lot of the other less popular home computers. That said, you know, the Apple II is also really well liked by its community. And so, like, if Apple's more your speed, or at least the games there are more your speed, which in, you know, my case, it's what I had at school, that could be a really good fit. But, you know, again, I think it just depends on what you're going for. I personally like the games in the Commodore series a little bit more. And I think that learning the basics, pun intended, of programming on a Commodore 64 is probably going to be easier just because of how well documented it is. And the user guide is phenomenal. And I think that's a really good fit. Let's see. Yeah, somebody's saying pets, but pets are as rare. Yeah, you can't find a pet. You're not going to be able to find a pet. And the Amiga 500, as far as something to learn to program on, is definitely, I think it's more of a challenge because there's just so many different ways to do it. It's just so much more complex of a machine. It's not impossible, but, you know, I certainly am no expert on it. And, like, I know my way around basic enough. Let's see. I wanted to get the C64 Maxi, but they don't sell them anymore. See, I am on the record as saying I'm not a big fan of the Commodore 64 reissue things. From my observation, they're neat, but with how challenging they are to, you know, like, or at least the big one, like, you might as well just try to find one of these and try to have fun with it. Saga Wench is asking about the RC 2014. Yes, okay. I have been meaning to order the entire kit and try to get started. It's so tempting. The RC 2014 is, I think it's just a Z80 based system, but it's very modular and you build it yourself. And it's that learning about the hardware side of it, which is really tempting for me. I just never did anything really with the with that chipset. But yeah, that's it. What's my opinion on the C64 DTV? Okay, the C64 for playing games, I think they're great. I should really preface this. Okay. All of those systems that emulate the Commodore 64 or replicate or re-engineer the Commodore 64, I think in the case of the DTV, those are really cool for what they do. If your goal is to learn about the Commodore 64 and learn 8-bit programming, I think you'll be better off with original hardware. That's if I'm being clear about it. Yep, Daryl says, I'm really tempted to go with the Mega 65 or Commander X16. Yeah, I think those could be really cool. I worry about the long-term usability of them, just in case the whoever is responsible for them doesn't keep up with it, is all. I mean, you do what you want to do, but at least with the Commodore 64, they're usually readily available. Yeah, the same can't be said for some of these other systems, and that's the other thing. Let's see. Carrie says, I made 2 videos on making a new yes, go check out Carrie's channel. So I made 2 videos on making a new C64 power supply in the original enclosure, safe and not running too hot. It is possible. You got to know what you're doing. And Carrie knows what she's doing, so that's good. Let's see. Stefan asks, do I like the old consoles too? Yes, I love the old consoles. I regularly play Game Boy. That's kind of the one that I go to probably most. But I had an SNES growing up, loved it. I had an NES, loved it. I had a Sega later, but I didn't really grow up with it, so I just have less experience with it. Nintendo 64 was toward the end of my youth, so I played some of those games, but SNES was more my speed. Let's see. Marky says, hoping to try some of these new aftermarket C64 VIC chips. Yeah, some of those are really cool. Or some of the chips, the replacement chips I've seen are really neat. Diag Cart says, everything is bad. The last thing to try to replace is the VIC chip. Any experience with the Kawari? I've never used the Kawari. I know people who've used the Kawari and really like it. I am lucky enough to where all of the Commodore 64s I have working VIC chips. That's the video chip, if you're unfamiliar with it. Let's see. The only issue I have with the original Commodore 64, this is from MJDXP. The only issue I have with the original Commodore 64 is they're old and will eventually break down, as well as having to deal with old floppy drives and such. Yes, I see that. Luckily with floppy drives, we've got some really great emulation options. The SD2IEC comes to mind, which is really flexible. But then I use a Pi 1541, which is another Raspberry Pi feature. It's a Raspberry Pi hat, goes on top of like a 3, or I think there's a 0. But I use a 3 for mine, and it emulates in a cycle exact way the original 1541 drive. And it can do that with images that you can actually load from an emulator. So it's very cool. It works really super well in my experience, and I typically have one readily available for, especially if I'm doing like audio kind of stuff, because sometimes the SD2IEC doesn't play nicely with my Messiah cartridge. But that's a very minor issue. Let's see. we've got everybody's okay. Everybody is talking about retro now. I expected to have more Linuxy discussion, but this is great. Okay, in Europe, the first real retro computer I'd go for is the Commodore 64. Basic is very limited though. The basic on a Commodore 64 is extremely limited. There's a whole backstory with it. You can Google it. It's going to be there's probably 1,000 videos on why the basic is so basic. But the advantage to going with a Commodore is that it's basically the lowest common denominator when it comes to 8-bit programming. You're going to learn enough to be able to then jump off into other things. And I think it's going to be good. Let's see. Yep, Socket Wench says the Linux and retro overlap is strong. You know, it totally is, and especially with Commodore stuff, I've noticed. And I think some of that is that Commodore is the it's the system that didn't make it, and I think that Linux enthusiasts have some sympathy there for reasons that are probably related to market share, would be my guess. And so I'm sympathetic, which is a lot of fun. Okay, MJDXP says, I'd personally suggest the Commodore 128. It means you can use the more interesting BASIC if you like, or go back into C64 mode. I have a 128. They're great. Absolutely love it. I use it at the end of a lot of these videos, and it's a lot of fun. The one thing I would say about the 128 is they can be a little hard to come by. If you can get one, that's fantastic. I think the power supplies are often a little bit more robust with those as well, so hopefully they haven't been damaged. But again, your mileage may vary. I just think they're neat. Yep. Let's see. Sparse says, I wrote a flat file database program in Simon's Basic for my Commodore 64. I was just talking with somebody who did that for a company. And like they wrote the entire like customer management system in Simon's Basic using flat files, and they ran a business off of it for like 10 years. And you know, like I think that's just so cool that you didn't have to be an expert in coding to pick some of this up. And I think a lot of that is just because the manufacturer, in the case of Commodore, provided the best manual I've ever seen. Just absolutely phenomenal manual. Yeah, Stefan says, maybe because the C64 is open source in terms of the hardware and software documentations. I mean, yeah, it's like you can actually, like, I can look up how to hack one of these and actually get somewhere on it, and it's not always that easy with every other system out there. So, let's see. Mookie says, Commodore didn't make it? No! That's true. They didn't survive. Yep, and Spencer says the Commodore 128 has a Z80. It does. It's not the best CPM system you're gonna get, but like it's fine. Let's see. Daryl says, let's get RetroArch working on Arch running from a Docker container on an Arch host. If you want to do that, you go ahead and do that. Okay, Clive asks, when do I think Pop! OS 24.04 will appear? That's a good question. I don't have any insider knowledge of it or anything like that. I'm waiting with bated breath like everybody else. I'm definitely going to try it. I've got a laptop earmarked for it right now, and I'm excited for it. I'm at this point, I'm not using Pop for anything other than my, you know, one of my laptops, just because I am so futzy with my systems now that, like, I'm just finding it's easier for me to do everything on Debian. So, you know, that tends to be what I'm going with now at this point. Let's see. Lethargo says, we had a Radio Shack Tandy TRS-80 with its basic. My first Linux, I believe, was Slackware and maybe even ZipSlack, if I'm remembering the name correctly. I don't know if ZipSlack. I've been having fun with Slackware lately, and I have a video coming out about and it's going to feature Slackware, which is going to be fun. I don't want to give it away too much, but it's going to be fun. Sebastian asks, favorite CLI tool these days? Depends on what I'm doing, I suppose. I probably spend more time in Mutt because of email. So I use Mutt as my email, my inbox manager, and that's how I keep up with mailing lists and stuff, and that works out pretty well. I'm trying to find a good CD ripper software that's in the terminal. I have used Asunder, which I believe is a GTK app that's in FlatHub, and it works fine, but I'm wanting to automate it headless. So I want to be able to put a CD in a computer in my basement near where I keep my CDs and just have a system grab the information off of it and rip it, and then I'll just execute the tagging and naming of it with a cron job is basically what I'm imagining. So I'm definitely open to learning more about that. Steven asks, have I ever messed around with LFS or Gentoo? Not LFS, I'll be frank, I don't see the point. If you really want to learn about Linux, if you want to dive into all of the specifics with how to set it up, I think that looks great, but I just never had an interest in it. Gentoo, I've always had an interest in, and I don't want to give away future videos, but yeah, I like Gentoo. Gentoo's a lot of fun. The reason I use Debian is because Debian's easy. That's it's simple to work with. Let's see. Andrew says, I've always been a Digital fan, Digital the company, and through work got to work on all kinds of ancient systems like a PDP-11 and a VAX-11. As I've been joking in the last few years, I'm not anti-VAX, just anti-VMS. That's funny. VAX is a computer. PDP-11 is also a computer, and those are popular COBOL machines. So, like, yeah, that's pretty exciting. Let's see, KDE Plasma 6.1 just released on Arch, and it's a pretty nice update. 6.0 brought some pain with it. Yeah, I tried 6.0, just in a virtual machine, and like, it was fun, it was fine, but yeah, it was definitely buggy, and generally speaking, I wouldn't jump to the 0.0 release of just about anything, but especially not a desktop environment. I tend to want to wait until they've ironed out some of the updates. So I'll definitely be giving Plasma 6.1 a try at some point. Not today, but I would make that a separate video and we would go into it. I would do some research because, you know, I haven't done much for that. Let's see. We've got free ACK. FRE:AC is also nice for ripping CDs, but Snap on Ubuntu. I'm not familiar with that one. I might have to look that up. Andrew asks, where do I recommend finding mainframe/COBOL jobs? Government? Financial institutions? So with mainframe and COBOL work, it's all about who you know. You just got to know somebody who's already doing that work right now. And if you don't know somebody, you know, like if you have an account with whoever makes the compiler you're wanting to work with, or whoever's doing that, you go on their website, you start making friends. That's a good place to get started. In my case, I knew people through legacy systems work, and you just kind of get to know people, and you get to find out which jobs are open, and you put your resume out there. Like many things in this world, it's about who you know. Let's see. Garfield says, I am a heathen. Windows 11 on my desktop and Linux on my servers. Proxmox, Unraid for NAS, and Ubuntu for testing. There's nothing wrong with that if you're liking it. I'm not going to tell you you're bad for enjoying Windows 11 if you're enjoying it. I don't know how to do anything in Windows. And I think that is, like, part of that is because I've been on Linux for, like, just about 20 years now. So Windows is as foreign to me as Linux would be to a longtime Windows user. Let's see. Oh, Addie. Hi, Addie. She's working on a modded Surface, which is fun. Cool. I'm eager to hear more about the Surface. That's gonna be neat. Let's see. CD paranoia. Okay, I'm literally grabbing a Post-it note because this came up. Pencil. CD paranoia. This came up. Somebody mentioned that, and I just don't know enough about it to know if it's any good. So seeing somebody else talking about it is helping. Let's see. Ashney says, recently I've dipped my toes into the coding pond, starting with Java. Do you happen to know some good place to learn COBOL? There is a book. I don't have it up here. I don't think I have it up here. No. It's called, I think it's called Beginning COBOL for Programmers. And that is, I think it's, oh, I forget who sells it now off the top of my head. But I think it's called Beginning COBOL for Programmers. The key thing is for programmers. So the idea here would be this book is one that explains COBOL and COBOL concepts to you, but assumes you already know about programming. Because the thing that you have to remember about COBOL is that COBOL was designed around business people who did not know programming, because programming as we currently know it was a completely different concept back when it was designed. And so COBOL is conversational in a way that a lot of languages aren't. And so if you're coming from a Java place or a Python place, it's a little bit of unlearning. And that is its own hang up, if that makes sense. But I liked that book because it explained things pretty well. When I started learning COBOL, I'd already known a few languages, so that really helped me get up to speed. Let's see. Do Windows Linux says, what do I think about the old Mac Mini? Let's see. I'm proving. I don't know what that means, but the old Mac Mini about 2010 with Debian, and I think it works great. I love old Mac Minis. I'm a big fan. The ones that you can actually like modify and repair and, you know, change parts out, I think those are great. I forget what bootloader. Was it Refined? I think Refined was the one that I used last time I did one of these. So that way I was able to get that stuff done. Let's see. Is there a reason I'm looking for a newer CD ripper? Because I want it to be automated. That's all. It is not necessarily because I think Asunder is bad. Asunder is a great program. I want to be able to put the CD in and walk away from it, and then, you know, come back after, you know, 3 days and pull it out the next time I buy a CD. I go CD shopping a lot, so it's one of those, if I have a new CD, I want to put it in the server, close the door, and then not think about it. And I can cron the process of tagging, I can cron all that, but what I don't have set up is a ripper program. So that's the reason why. Let's see. There's some FreeBSD stuff going on in the chat. I love FreeBSD. FreeBSD is fun. I always say if you don't like systemd, go with FreeBSD. It's gonna be. I think you're gonna have a lot more fun there. Let's see. The 2012 server models of the Mac Mini, they came with an i7 instead of an i5. Yeah, those are really neat. Those are a lot of fun. Let's see. People are talking about Asahi Linux. So Asahi Linux isn't for all Macs. Asahi Linux would be for Macs with their Apple Silicon chips. I don't have one of those, so I've never tried it. If I could ever acquire like an M1 Mac and play around with Asahi on it, I absolutely would, but they're still pretty expensive, and I'm not going to spend that kind of money on something just to play around with a Linux distro. I figure when it gets to the point where those Mac Minis or those like old MacBook Airs, I can find them for a couple $100, then I might check it out. Let's see. We're still talking. I use Ripper in Docker to okay, Ripper. I'm not familiar with that one. It's literally just called Ripper. Let's see. Okay, and Andrew says, I remember ABCDE being really popular a few years ago. Yes, I have tried that one. I don't remember why I didn't like it on Debian. There might have been a reason I didn't like it on Debian. And I don't remember exactly what that was off the top of my head. Okay, let's see. Don asks, what is the difference between using Ripper and just doing straight DD? So straight DD, I have not tried that with an audio CD, but I can imagine the problem is I don't want to listen to the CD as a CD. I want to grab the tracks off of it and then put that onto either my iPod or Jellyfin or some other media place and be able to get the songs that way. DD isn't going to do that without then just ripping it. So, and again, I don't even know if you can DD an audio CD. That would be an interesting challenge. I've never tried it. Has anyone said morituri? I'm just going to write it down because I don't know what that means. Somebody says DD only works for data CDs. Audio CDs have larger sectors. That makes sense. Okay. Gamirez asks, can I start with Debian? I would say absolutely you can if you are patient with the installer and the process. It really depends on your patience. Debian 12 in particular has been so much easier to install on hardware than Debian 11 and prior was because of the non-free drivers. If you're unfamiliar, older versions of Debian had made a decision not to include non-free drivers in the installation media, which meant that installing with your Wi-Fi hardware, your sound hardware, your graphics hardware was always a bit of a pain. Debian 12 has unified this, and that has made that so much easier to install. So I think it's taken a lot of the pressure off. It's not perfect, but nothing is. I think it's pretty good, and I think it can be a good fit for you. What I would recommend is if you're brand new to Linux, it's probably easiest with Debian 12 if you start with the KDE Plasma instead of GNOME if you are completely new. I think that KDE Plasma 5.27, which is what ships with Debian, is one of the best releases of KDE Plasma I've ever seen, and it is incredibly stable on everything I've thrown at it. And if you're brand new and just getting started, I think you're going to have a much easier time there than on GNOME. Not that GNOMe's bad, it's just GNOME is it's opinionated in terms of where it places things and how it does things, and if you're not used to Linux, you might not have the best experience with it. That's my personal opinion. Everybody can disagree with me. I'm sure you're all going to talk about it in the comments. It's going to be great. Johnny Speed says, I'd go for LMDE. You could go for LMDE. That could work. Let's see. That's Linux Mint Debian Edition. And, okay, people are talking about Zorin. I don't recommend Zorin because I think they're the ones that have the paid version, right? And it's not that I think that's bad. It's just that if you're brand new to Linux, I could imagine that sets things up in kind of a goofy way, but that's just me. You could get the wrong impression of how the Linux ecosystem works, and maybe time will prove me wrong. I don't know. That's just fine. Let's see. Northern Chimp is asking about LXDE and XFCE. I like them both. I don't necessarily recommend either one of them to beginners because they don't hold your hand as much. They expect more out of you. When you're a beginner, I think you should have something that guides you through things more and alerts you more, even if it's annoying. I think it's better to learn the way that a lot of other people learn, because then you're going to Google things that other people have Googled and you're going to have a better result. Like I could tell you, go learn Sway because I think it's great. But that's going to give you a really bad time if you've never used a tiling window manager. And so I don't do that. Let's see. You mean the non-free drivers, they moved those to a separate repo. I think I'm missing something. Do I suggest using a custom kernel like Zably? If you have to ask if you need a custom kernel, you probably don't need a custom kernel. That is my honest and sincere opinion. If you know you need a custom kernel, you don't have to ask if you need a custom kernel. It's like Nala. People say, should I be using Nala instead of apt? If you have to ask, no. Just use apt. You're going to be fine. Plus, the new apt is going to be much faster than the other one. So people get all bent out of shape over it. But like at the end of the day, I want it to be standardized because standards are easier to troubleshoot and solve. It's tough when people start adding things onto their system to try to improve things marginally, and then they end up breaking something, and I don't think that's any good. Let's see. I think Mint's XFCE is a great option for newcomers who want better performance on their desktop. It can be. Mint is great. I love Mint. And Mint's XFCE is opinionated and helps you out. And I do think they do a good job. It's when the question's about Debian, I'm going to recommend KDE Plasma at this point. Let's see. Greetings from Argentina. Did I try to install Debian on a USB drive? I've never tried to. I don't install things on a USB drive. If you mean, did I create have I created Flash media for installation? The answer to that's yes. I've done that, and I usually use DD for it. But there's going to be a fun thing about that at some point. I'm planning a video. Oh, Momo tipped me $10 and thanked me for the work. I appreciate that, Momo. Thank you. That's super, that's very helpful. This will help defer the cost of the Raspberry Pi that I bought to do this thing, so thank you. Appreciate that. Let's see. Apt versus apt-get. If you have to ask, apt. The reason for it is apt is, I think it's a more friendly wrapper. I tend to use apt. When I'm scripting, I use apt-get. And so if you have to ask, you should probably be using apt at this point. If you're scripting, you should definitely be using apt-get. You should try to make things as straightforward as possible for scripts. Daryl is saying, I wish I could use the Debian, but you missed the AUR, even with flat. Yeah, the AUR is stellar. It really is. That's the Arch user repository. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's one of the benefits to using Arch Linux. And it really is good. The AUR is definitely, I used to use Arch, and it's something I miss. Who was it? So Brian asks, who was it who said, I think standards are a wonderful thing. Everyone should have one of their own. I love that. I don't know who said it, but I love it. Let's see. Luca asks, what do I think of Arch install? I did a video on Arch install. So, and I think that video still, for the most part, holds up. Arch is much easier to install now than it ever was. I wouldn't say it's one of the easiest distros, because things can still go wrong. You know, Arch install still lets you make mistakes, and I think that's instructive, but that can also be destructive, and other distros try to prevent you from making mistakes in a way that I think makes them a little easier for beginners to install. But Arch install that's the installation script for Arch, has made it much simpler. And I mean, when I'm spinning up a VM, it makes it much easier for me. Let's see. Fedora, Andrew says, Fedora is a great noob-friendly distro as well as a great power user-friendly distro. I agree with some caveats. One of the caveats I have with Fedora is the decision to prioritize the Fedora Flatpaks instead of just using FlatHub directly. For beginners, that can lead to a quick relearning as they're hearing about Flatpak and don't realize that their Flatpak isn't the same thing as other people's Flatpak. That's a decision that I think, I mean, it's a fine decision. Fedora is prioritizing stability over the newest and most popular part of it, or the newest and most generic part of it. But I do think that creates complications for beginners, if that makes sense. Let's see. I'm looking. Oh, Steven says, I love the trackball person shirt. Yep. I have a trackball person shirt. I have a merch store at vkc.sh. So you can go check that out if you want to. And I do sell that's where I sell the Ethernet shirt that I wear sometimes. It has all the different colors of the Ethernet, like the Ethernet color coding. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, there's a bunch of shirts there. Cosmic on Arch will likely end up being my sweet spot. I'm excited to try Cosmic. It's going to be great. Okay. Johnny says, apt is fine, but it's text spaghetti. Nala does an excellent job in making the package manager look more professional. Sure. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure. Okay. I see it. I would counter that with, I don't care what it looks like. I just want it to work. Give me spaghetti. I love spaghetti. I'm like an eighth Italian. I love give me spaghetti. It's where I got the dark hair and the under eye circles. I'm a big fan of spaghetti. The advantage to using apt is that it's gonna be there, and especially if you are a professional or hoping to become a professional, learn the tools that come with your distro. That's my advice. Let's see. TLP or auto CPU frequency on laptop. That's why asking about a custom kernel. Using Debian 12 as a daily driver on the laptop drains the battery really fast. You might need to look at fine-tuning things then. And, you know, it really is going to depend on the specifics with your laptop. I don't run into this issue. But, like, I don't know, my needs are probably different than yours, and my laptop's probably different. I've done some stuff with TLP. It's fine. It's just fine. Let's see. Spaghetti usually means lazy and insecure coding, though bad practice. But not when it comes to how apt. Apt is not lazy. Apt is a well-respected tool. It's been used for years and years and years. And people like it. People use it. I think it's fine. If you don't want to use it, don't use it. That's totally cool. Is it bad to use both apt and Nala? I'm not going to tell you something's bad. I mean, that's not my jam. I know I know YouTube wants me to do that. YouTube wants me to say, X is bad, use Y instead. That I would definitely get a lot more views in videos if I acted like that. But I don't do it because I think it's BS. I think that's crap. Let's see. Do I manage my iPod from Linux? If so, what do I use? Made a video about it. Rhythmbox. It's simple. It just works. Let's see. We're still getting a bunch of questions. I like Fedora because it's running on my M1 Mac Mini via Asahi, and it's running. Yep. Fedora's great. I love Fedora. I just don't necessarily recommend it to beginners. And the reason why is because there are elements of it that are really catered toward the power user, and that makes sense. I think Fedora is fantastic. And if you're a little bit beyond beginner, you might really like Fedora. One of the things you got to keep in mind with recommendations is when somebody Googles, you know, like I'm going to type on my VIC-20 here, how to solve problem on Linux, and they hit enter, you know a good chunk of the responses are going to assume Ubuntu. Just right out the gate. They're going to make that assumption. And that is going to lead somebody who doesn't know what they're doing to start going down the wrong path towards solving problems if they're using something that isn't in that family. And that's the thing I have to keep in mind when people ask me, do you recommend this for beginners? Do you recommend that for beginners? It's not that you can't do it. You know, I had a whole thing about how you can use Arch as a beginner. Excuse me. But you have to know what you're doing with it. You have to know what you're searching for, and you have to be patient. And I think that Fedora, to a certain extent, because it does things differently than Ubuntu does, it becomes a little bit harder to be a recommendation. Debian is a little bit easier to make as a recommendation. If somebody's asking me right now, hey, I'm interested in Linux. What do I use? I'm going to tell them Linux Mint. And that's because if you don't know, if you don't have an opinion on that, Linux Mint is the way to get you an opinion. It doesn't necessarily mean I think it's the best thing for everybody all the time. I just think if you're a brand new person to this, that makes sense. Okay, Jacob asks, what is Nala? I've never heard of it before. I'm sure somebody's going to answer that in the chat, Jacob. But Nala is a very popular alternative package manager front-end thing for Debian, and I tried it and didn't see the point, but that's just me. And, you know, I'm a sysadmin and I know about how to use apt. Let's see. Findus asks, you ever visit Scandinavia? I have not. I mentioned I'm like an 1/8 Italian. I'm in Minnesota, so I'm like 7/8 Scandinavian, which is where I get the skin tone from. And yeah, that's haven't been there. Wouldn't mind going there. Andre asks, have I ever installed Gentoo? Yes. Lynn says, Lynn Pham says, Arch Linux is amazing even as a non-Arch user. Couldn't agree more. That's one of the best things. Let's see. Cam says, hello, Veronica. And Linux Mint i9s? Oh, Linux Mint is. That's okay, I see. Linux Mint is what my dad uses. Yeah, Linux Mint is great. I love Linux Mint. And it's not just for beginners. You know, like, I don't want to make it sound like Linux Mint is a beginner distro. You can use Linux Mint as your only distro forever, and you're going to have a good time. If you want to. If you want to use something else, you should use something else. Like, that's the beauty of this thing. We can try different things. Let's see. I use Mint for getting work done, Arch for doofing around, and Debian for servers. That's a great one. Cam said, I would have guessed Minnesota from your accent. I don't have the whole accent. I have like 3/4 of the accent in my head anyway. Do I enjoy working with container first distros like Fedora Atomic? No, because I'm a COBOL dev. So what I mean by that is containers are not my native workflow, if that makes sense, but I'm trying to get better at them. If you were a Linux distro, you would be Debian. Oh, geez. Okay. That's inappropriate. Let's see. Mint is usually my go-to recommendation for people. Yeah, I agree with that. That makes sense. Let's see. Yeah, people like in Mint. Mint. Lots of, yep. Okay. Yeah, okay. People are just now just talking about Mint. Yeah, ISAM files is my workflow. Yeah, it's my, I'm like more in the Unix crowd, if that makes sense. But like, I mean, that's just me. Okay, Garuda is weird. All right, we're just talking about Linux distros now, and that's fine. Cam says, or Cam's Cream Cheese says, I haven't used Mint mostly because I'm pretty pro Wayland, Wayland limitations aside. Yeah, Wayland has some limitations. Mint is going to get there. Everybody's going to get there. It's an inevitability at this point. There are definitely some problems on Wayland. I don't know if I agree with everybody making Wayland the primary yet, but at some point we have to start pushing Wayland. So, like, I don't know. It's complicated. It's weird. Let's see. People are just talking. Snow the Parrot says, y'all are, I can't say y'all because I'm from Minnesota. Y'all are sleeping on Pop, LOL. I did a whole video on Pop. I like Pop. I'm just waiting for their new thing. And then I'll reevaluate it at that point. Snake Jazz says, hey, how are you? I'm doing good, Snake Jazz. Thank you. Snake Jazz. That's jazz hands. It's good. Steve Miller says, Wayland isn't good for a production-based system. I don't know what that means, but I use Wayland on, for all of the videos that I edit and all of the audio that I work with, and it's fine. So it's working for me in production. I suppose it depends on what you produce. I always say don't tell people what doesn't work for production because you never know what other people are producing. Like, I know people who could still use a VIC-20 in production. So, okay, Johnny asks, Veronica, I'm a new subscriber. Welcome, thank you. Tell us what I use as a daily and on my home lab VMs. As my daily Linux distribution, it's Debian. And it's a variety of different Debians based on the different servers I'm running or different systems I'm running. On this computer, which is my streaming and editing computer, it's currently Debian stable. I have some apt pinning going on. In the past, it's been Debian SID on this machine, and before that, it was Pop! OS. On one of my laptops, I'm running Pop! OS. On another laptop, a Chromebook, I'm running Fedora, and I usually do my tiling window manager testing and the fun there. Because the Chromebook, it's small, so it benefits from a sleeker interface. And then in the home lab, it really depends. I have a few, RHEL-based things going on for play with legacy stuff. I have some FreeBSD going on, but it is a lot of Debian, a few Ubuntu containers, a few Alpine containers. Yeah, if that makes sense. So it's a little all over the map. It trends toward Debian. That's the general trend line of what I use first. And I'm a Vim user. There you go. Chat's about to go wild about Vim. Just Add Coffee says I'm currently on Pop. It was my first distro a year ago. I've distro hopped. I keep coming back. Fell in love with its simple tiling out of the box. Pop is great. I love it. It's fantastic. Emmanuel asked what industries have the highest demand for COBOL nowadays. It's going to be finance, industry, like industrial players, literal, companies that make things, your point of sale kind of stuff, and government. If I said government twice, one of those was supposed to be healthcare. There's plenty of COBOL to go around, and your bank is probably using it somewhere. Let's see. Garfield asks, anybody vouching for ButterFS? ButterFS is fine. I use ZFS because it's easier for me. It's just a quick install from Debian, and then I got it going. ButterFS could be really good, but it's just not what I learned. So if that makes sense. I don't have anything against it. Daryl asks if I ever tried OpenBSD. Not as a desktop. I have used it as a server to run jails, I think. No, that was FreeBSD. I always ran jails off of FreeBSD. I think I used OpenBSD to run a firewall once a long time ago. I don't have a whole lot of experience on it. Let's see. Garfield says banks and insurance. Yeah, there you go. For COBOL. Let's see. If you like ZFS, I recommend ZFS boot menu as a bootloader. Sure. Cool. It could be good. I don't know. I still use Grub. I'm still doing it the old-fashioned way. Probably will forever. Which file system do I use? Do you mean like on my systems? I'm typically, so Pranav asks which file system do I use? If you're talking about like as I'm partitioning my drive, which like literal system file system am I using? It's typically ext4 on, but with Lux on anything that I care about, especially if it's portable. On my editing rig, I usually use Lux for my home directory and the main directory, but then all the editing I do on an unencrypted drive that's also attached to the computer because it's editing and somebody steals it. I don't really care. They're going to see a bunch of flubs and outtakes, and that's fine. Okay, thoughts? Jefferson asked, thoughts on Suckless? If you're not familiar with Suckless, it's a paradigm. There's a lot of different, I'm sorry, I said paradigm. but it's a bunch of programs, like, what is it? DWM is one of them, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't know for sure. I obviously don't have a lot of experience with it. I don't know. I tend, if it's popular, I don't, that's not gonna be enough for me to want to use it. It looks like work. I do use Mutt though, so you know, there's that. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Ilker Octem? I hope I'm saying that right. I'm sorry if I'm not. Says your choice of firewall solution for small mid-sized networks. The limited amount of that I've done, I tend to like pfSense, and a lot of that just has to do with support contracts and experience with it. I am running pfSense myself here at the home network, so, and I enjoy it. Okay, when you daily drive, Halano says, hello Veronica, hi. When you daily drive Arch and using window managers as a question. I'm not sure I'm following. I don't daily drive Arch, and I probably won't because I like Debian and it's fine. I can do everything I want in Debian, it's good. Okay, I think I'm gonna pull down the stream here. We're getting a lot of good questions, but like I've been doing this for about 80 minutes now, and that seems like a good time. So I want to thank everybody for chiming in the chat and helping out. I hope you enjoyed the VIC-20 stuff. If you're tuning in late and missed it, you can rewind. It's going to be fun. Again, go check out C0pperdragon's repo or C0pperdragon's Tindy page. Let's see if I can... Link is in the description, and it's a lot of fun. This cool thing, which lets me get clean video on my VIC-20, which is a lot of fun, and it's exciting, and I hope you all enjoyed seeing it. So to everybody in the stream, thank you. I appreciate it. To everybody else watching, thank you for watching. And as always, Linux is awesome, and so are you. Thanks, everybody. Bye! Hitting end. End.